walk-in refrigerator. When the fire was going, I understand that they took blankets and soaked them and put them around the women and their children, and they went into this building and hoping that they could save the children from the fire. The only problem was that fire was so hot that they were being steamed. When Dr. Crow came, he told us about the way they said the children had been, their skulls had been cracked open. And he said, well, I know what happened. He said that when that long arm went into the building.
That long arm was on the tank.
On the tank. That it went in and it was up and it ripped the top of this, a part of the top of this section. And he said when that happened, he said there was, that fell in on them. And this is heavy cement. I mean, it's about, I'd say about 5 inches thick, maybe more. And he said when the man was in there and he pulled away from the structure, he could see people in that building, in that cement area. And so they know that is what happened to the children and the people that were in that area. He was very upset because he was very conscious of what happened, and he came to us and talked to us about different things that had happened.
And this was whom? This is whom was very conscious?
Dr. Crow. He was the one that was, what is it?
He was the pathologist.
The pathologist.
Yeah, the pathologist. That was, he was the one that said what had happened to the different ones.
Okay.
So we asked him about the different people and what had happened to them. He told us.
Okay, if there's anyone at this time that would like to ask Catherine some questions, we have a mic over here that we would like very much for you to just come up and ask her questions, if you would, please.
Yeah.
Why don't you slide that mic now, because you're get it in front of you.
Yeah,
there
that's
you go.
Thank you.
Is this thing on?
Oh, thank you.
Catherine, I got about 1 million questions. Okay, let me just ask you 3.
Okay.
Who killed the 4 ATF agents?
I can't say who did that, but
Were you aware of the Weaver incident up on the mountain there, where they finally, the defense, for a lack of defense, finally brought out that they killed their own man?
well, someone gave me a book about the Weavers, and I read that, and I have seen some of that on tape.
Do you think that because of the lack of weaponry that was on the property, was anybody in there responsible for their deaths, in your opinion?
I want to tell you that there was no suicide. There was one time when David was very ill.
No, I don't mean them. I mean the 4 agents.
Oh,
Did somebody in that property kill those 4 men?
I really don't know. I mean, I can't be sure. I've seen tapes and what people say about them, but I can't swear by it because I wasn't there.
Okay. I watched the day, I happened to, don't ask me why, it must be inspired. I turned on my TV at 5 a.m. the day of the fire. And I don't know, I hadn't watched anything prior to that. And I just started recording it, and I don't know why I did. But according to my tape, I got down in the corners, 19 minutes that building was totally engulfed. Now, I wanted to ask you something. Was the second floor of the building principally the wall that they attacked with the boom? Was that principally on the second floor? Was it like non-partitioned and it was just open up there?
No.
Because it seemed to me that the way I know the wind was blowing from the direction that the tank went into the building. You could tell that the wind was blowing really hard, like about 40, 50 mile an hour. It looked to me like it was really blowing hard. And it looked to me like the way the wind just swept through that building to the other end. Just whoosh. It was just
The
like,
wind is always very strong there. Even when there isn't wind other places, we usually have some movement. But no, there was not the rooms were partitioned, and each one had their own place. Now, down where the fire, they said the fire started, on the right-hand side of the building, there were, 1, 2, 3, 4, there were 4 large rooms, and these rooms were for the families that had maybe 4 or 5 children, and so they had doors on them, and just like any place, you know, and they were very large. I don't know if the families were there or not.
what about this supposed secret room that was buried, like a buried school bus or something that was under the ground?
Well, we've had tornadoes and different things. And David wanted to make a place so that if there was a very severe storm, and we weren't sure whether we would survive in the building, he knew how weak that building was. Every one of us knew that. He would have a place where the children and the mothers and the women and everybody else could go into and stay until the storm was over. And so he did. He buried that bus down there. Nobody ever used it.
Okay, another question, please.
You told a story about how David bought a toy truck for his child, and then he went out and bought 12 others for all the other children. How many of those children were his?
How many were his?
How many of those children were his?
You're trying to find out if they were his.
Or do you have a rough count? How many children did he have?
No, I don't.
Did he have a lot?
He had a few. But the children that, when he bought something, he bought it for all of them.
I think her question is, did he have illegitimate children?
No, he didn't.
That's what we needed to clear up. He had.
So, what would you consider illegitimate? I mean, how many different wives did he have?
I'm not sure.
But he had several.
What was that?
But he had several.
He had others, yes. He came on the tape and told that.
Okay, you also said that the compound wasn't in Jonestown. Who set the fire?
No, it wasn't. Far from it.
Who set the fire?
Well, I know that we didn't, because if we had said it, it would be suicide. And I know that he had been told by God, never was he ever to commit suicide. And knowing David and the men with him, he never would have committed suicide.
So you truly believe that they did not set the fire, that no one in the compound set the fire?
I know he didn't, because I know David. And I know that David loved everyone there and took care of everybody there, regardless of who they were.
You apparently weren't near any of the men when the fighting started, is that correct? Any of the men in the compound?
Well, the men were downstairs
So you
to
really
protect
don't,
us.
you don't really know how many guns were down there, how many guns they opened?
When I walked from the foyer upstairs, there was no one around with a gun. People were in their own rooms. And like I said, one man had a piece of toast in his hand when he died. I mean, if they had thought they were supposed to get ready for an ambush, they would have taken and done more than have a piece of toast in their hand.
What would they have done?
Well, what would you do?
No, what would they have done?
I'm asking you, what would you do if somebody came to your house and started a fire at you, and you had children and women in the place, and you were going to let them kill you without protecting yourself?
So what you're saying is they defended themselves?
I do not know how many guns they had. I know there were very few. But I know one thing. The men would have protected us with their own bodies.
Are there any other questions that anyone would like to ask? Okay.